This is the narcissist's greatest fear, and once you know it, they'll be scared out of their wits. If I asked you to name the greatest fear of a narcissist, most people would quickly answer losing control, losing supply, or being exposed. And yes, those are true. Those are the fears everyone talks about. But here's the twist: that's not the whole picture. Beneath those obvious terrors lies a darker layer of hidden anxieties, the kind they guard fiercely yet wrestle with every single day. These are not the big, dramatic fears we all expect. They are the smaller, constant torments that burn inside them moment after moment, chipping away at their fragile sense of self. How do I know? I've lived it. I've seen it unfold in my narcissistic parents and extended family. I've studied their patterns up close, and I've watched them crumble under the weight of these private fears. And that brings us to today's topic: 5 fears that make a narcissist pee their pants. Sounds humorous, I know, but once you hear why, the title will make perfect sense. Fear number 1, the loss of memory. Narcissists depend obsessively on their memory. It's one of their sharpest weapons. Like predators mapping their hunting grounds, they catalog every detail of the territory around them. Why? Because they must be able to manipulate reality convincingly. To gaslight you effectively, they first need to know the real truth in microscopic detail. They remember what you said a decade ago, how you phrased it, even the exact tone, and they'll weaponize it to keep you trapped in arguments you never signed up for. Memory, for them, is a vault they dip into whenever they need ammunition. Imagine this: you're drifting off to sleep, and suddenly they spark an argument. Out of nowhere, they resurrect something you said 10 years earlier. You used this word, and it hurt me deeply. I'll never forget it. And just like that, you're dragged into a battle you didn't want, all because they stored that fragment away to use at the perfect time. But here's where the nightmare begins for them. What happens when their memory starts to fail? When the vault cracks and the details they rely on begin to slip away. I saw this terror firsthand in my father. In his younger years, he wore his memory like a crown. You can't trick me. I remember everything. You'll never escape me. But as he grew older, cracks appeared. I remember him nervously joking, "I think my memory's slipping," followed by a hollow laugh to mask the dread. Soon after, he was reaching for supplements, vitamins, and anything else to fight off the inevitable. Why such panic? Because memory loss means losing control. Control over their story, their lies, and their power to dominate. Exposure, in their mind, can be managed to some degree. They can spin, deflect, deny, or charm their way out. But dementia, Alzheimer's, or natural cognitive decline, that's outside their control. And nothing terrifies them more than being stripped of the very tool they've depended on their whole lives. Fear number 2, you building a strong bond with your children. When you start a family with a narcissist, your dream is to create a healthy, loving home. You want to raise children together as a united team. But to a narcissist, that's not the goal. Their belief system is fundamentally different. They don't see children as individuals to be nurtured. They see them as extensions, as little soldiers who will eventually serve their needs and feed their ego. For you, it's about raising independent, happy humans. For them, it's about manufacturing long-term supplies of narcissistic fuel. Disturbing? Yes, but true. And here's the problem. You, the other parent, stand in their way. You represent a threat to their monopoly over the children's loyalty. So what do? They eliminate the threat by turning the children against you. This is where parental alienation begins. How do they pull it off? Through a carefully crafted mix of lies, manipulation, and environmental control. They don't just say you're the problem. They create circumstances that prove their narrative. For instance, they might paint you as the abuser or the family destroyer while casting themselves as the poor, helpless victim. Then, they poke and prod you until you react. That outburst, of course, becomes evidence to the children. See, mommy, daddy is the abusive one. This distorted perception slowly hardens in the children's minds, serving the narcissist's ultimate agenda. I must have them all to myself. They must be loyal to me and me alone. The kids, without realizing it, become enablers. Some act as flying monkeys, carrying the narcissist narrative forward. In certain cases, they may even start mimicking narcissistic traits themselves. I know this because I lived it. My mother groomed me from an early age to see my father as the enemy. Was he abusive and emotionally detached? Absolutely. But she amplified and dramatized everything, crying, playing the victim, and blaming him for every misfortune. Day after day, she repeated the same stories, hammering them into my mind until I could only see him through her lens. Eventually, any chance of building a real relationship with him was gone, destroyed. And why? So that she could keep all the attention, all the loyalty, and all the minions for herself. The only difference between me and the others was this: I eventually saw through her facade. I recognized her true colors and chose to step away from both of them. Fear number 3, losing their sexual allure. This fear is especially intense for somatic or sexually driven narcissists, the type who bases their worth almost entirely on physical appearance and sexual desirability. They pour enormous amounts of energy into sculpting their bodies, obsessing over diets, workouts, and cosmetic enhancements. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with exercising or taking care of yourself, but with them, it goes far beyond healthy self-care. It becomes an obsession because their identity and power hinge on how attractive they appear. But here's the unavoidable truth: time catches up with everyone. No matter how many plastic surgeries, injections, or procedures they undergo, aging is inevitable. Wrinkles appear, bodies change, and physical performance declines. And this reality terrifies the narcissist. They cannot accept it. To cope, they desperately try to align themselves with youth. For instance, older male narcissists often pursue much younger women, not because of genuine love, but because being with someone young allows them to delude themselves into feeling just as young. They change the way they dress, the way they speak, even the way they carry themselves, almost as if they've leapt into another generation. All of this springs from their panic over losing sexual appeal. Many male narcissists grow deeply anxious about issues like erectile dysfunction, spending money on endless treatments and procedures to fix it, instead of accepting that aging naturally impacts sexual function. They cling to the fantasy, I should still have the stamina of an 18-year-old. Of course, that fantasy inevitably shatters, and the collapse leaves them humiliated and enraged. Female sexual narcissists, on the other hand, often rely heavily on provocative clothing, exaggerated makeup, and attention-grabbing behavior to preserve the illusion of youth. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong with how someone dresses, but in this context, it's all about validation. Their outfits, their looks, their public presence exist to attract as many eyes as possible. They cling to attention as proof that they are still desirable. If someone dares to remind them of their actual age, say, telling them they are 70, they react with explosive rage. Why? Because in their own delusion, they are still 35. At the root of it all lies their greatest terror, the fading of sexual magnetism. For them, it's not just about getting older, it's about losing the very currency they've always used to control, manipulate, and extract supply. Fear number 4, being truly seen. This fear is very different from simple exposure. Exposure happens when you tell others what kind of person the narcissist really is. But being seen through means something deeper. It's when someone pierces the mask, sees past the illusion, and recognizes the truth hiding beneath. Narcissists are masters of disguise. They thrive on deception, manipulation, and carefully crafted illusions. Their fake charm, their grandiose persona, their stories, all of it is designed to hide who they really are. And the reason they are so skilled at it? Because underneath it all lies a gnawing terror. I must never be seen for who I really am. But the moment they cross paths with an awakened empath, someone who has healed, grown stronger, and already dealt with narcissists before, their composure begins to crack. They tremble internally because they know this person isn't fooled. This person can feel the cracks in their mask, notice the inconsistencies in their words, and sense the mismatch between who they claim to be and who they actually are. That level of awareness terrifies them. In those moments, Narcissists often shrink into timid, cornered creatures. You'll notice them avoiding eye contact, suddenly needing to leave, or even flat out disappearing. If they can't flee, they'll retaliate indirectly. Smear campaigns, gossip, subtle sabotage. They attack from the shadows because they lack the courage for direct confrontation. Why? Because deep down they know the truth. They know the awakened empath has pierced the illusion and sees the insecure, fragile, hollow self hiding underneath. To the narcissist, being authentically seen is like standing completely naked in a locked room with no doors or windows, trapped, exposed, and suffocating with nowhere to escape. Have you ever experienced this? Have you been the person who made a narcissist squirm, stumble, or show their cracks? If yes, share your story. I'd love to hear about it. Fear number 5, indifference. This final fear is one of the most devastating for a narcissist, and it's not the same as simply being ignored. Ignoring a narcissist, through gray rocking, withholding attention, or refusing to react, can certainly upset them, but it still carries an undertone of emotional involvement. Deep down, you may still feel something, even if you don't express it. True indifference, however, is a completely different story. Indifference means they no longer matter to you at all. It's as if they've ceased to exist in your world. And that, for a narcissist, is pure annihilation. These predators have a sharp instinct. They can sense the difference between someone who is pretending not to care and someone who genuinely doesn't. When real indifference sets in, it's like their lifeline has been cut. Their identity, their entire sense of existence, depends on being acknowledged. Without your reactions, your energy, your validation, they wither. They are nothing more than a shadow that no longer casts on your life. That realization sends them into a tailspin. You'll often hear them spout wild accusations. Oh, they've become an alcoholic. They're on drugs. They've changed so much. They're not the person I once knew. They may even turn the tables and claim they are the ones who have been abandoned. I gave them everything, and now they've discarded me. Some will stage fake emergencies, pull dramatic stunts, or launch smear campaigns, all desperate attempts to claw back into relevance. But no matter how loud the noise, none of it changes the truth. When you've reached true indifference, the game is over. They've lost the one thing they crave most: your attention, your energy, your emotional investment. To you, they are already gone. And that, right there, is the narcissist's greatest nightmare. And that wraps up today's video. If this message spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it so others can find strength too. And make sure to hit like and subscribe, because every click helps this channel grow and reach more people who need to hear this truth. Thank you deeply for being here. And until we meet again in the next video, stay strong, stay aware, and as always, let the healing continue.